Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and we have an exciting episode and multiple exciting episodes again here today on VCTV. So get ready. Tons to talk about as we are in, again, an important quarter of the year. This is a time, hey, Bernard, this is a great time for everybody, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're an investor, this is the time of the year to be ready with all the knowledge and all the insights that you can get. So for those that are tuning in for the first time, what am I talking about? What does this all mean? Well, for investors, this is the time where they see some of the greatest opportunities and the greatest companies, as every company, or a lot of companies, pardon me, are in fundraising mode. We also have a lot of new product launches that are coming from both private and public companies, and new startups are getting created like crazy. This is the time of the year. This is the rounding out of the year. This is the sprint to the end of the year. This is the time. This is the most active time of the year. And we here on VCTV are bringing you everything that you need to know, whether it's industries, whether it's technologies, or whether it's about what's happening in regions around the world. We're giving you the latest. We bring together the best and the brightest to share their insights, to open up their minds on how they think, how they're making decisions, and why they're making decisions. So get ready. We've got a ton to talk about. In today's topic, we are actually going towards marketplaces, and not just marketplaces in terms of shopping and transacting. We're going to another level. We're going at the level of food. We've talked in previous episodes around this topic and about how we're getting our food, whether it's coming from the farm to the table, and where else it may be going in terms of the advancements and technologies that are being put into that process. Today, we're going even deeper. We're looking at the bigger, broader picture around food tech. What's happening? Where is technology being applied when it comes to the processing, the delivery, whether that's last mile, or again, that's farm to table and farther beyond as well. So tons to talk about in this industry. It's constantly getting disrupted. And right now, more than ever, as we sprint towards the end of the year of 2020 and look towards the next decade ahead and what is to come around these industries. So with that being said, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. For our audience tuning in for the first time, welcome, thank you as well. If you're an investor listening and you would like to be on a show like today to share your thoughts and insights, please do reach out to Maria, Elena, and or the LA Tech team and myself. We'd be happy to find the right episode for you. Entrepreneurs, we always talk about investing. We always talk about investors. We've got investors here, but guess what? This is not just a show for them. It's a show for you. There's a virtual stage here available for you to get up on, pitch us as investors in real time, along with our live audience, to share that with them, your company, your product, and your service that you are putting out there. This is a perfect time to do that again as we sprint towards the end of the year. Take advantage of the opportunity, reach out. We'd love to help you out. And with that, a big thank you to Elena, Maria, and to the entire LA Token team for all that they do to make sure that VCTV happens every single day and comes to you in your screen, your device, and anywhere in the world, and that we all come together and we show up on time just for you. So a big thank you to them and to the entire team behind it. With that, I'm your host. Let's go ahead and get started. Arena, welcome back to the show. It's been a minute. Oh, I'm kicking you. Are you okay to kick off?
Oh, yes, of course. I said, my regular sign, it's just basically signing hello. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm doing what Gary does. This time I'm participating. I signed up for every day of the week, and I really love it because one of the things that we do here is kind of expand and connect. And I think it is just so important. My most favorite conversations are here. So thank you so much for keeping it up and for doing it and for having me be here and participating and contributing. My name is Irina Litchfield. I am president of Lumeria, where capital meets innovation. I am owner of Moonreach on Moonreach Ranch, and also co-founder of Permatech. And the last two I usually don't get a chance to talk about because it's kind of a farming things, and in a tech world up until now that has been kind of a dream come true to where we can merge the technology and farming for sustainable for sustainability. But now we're having these conversations, and so it's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. We're happy to have you too and just talk about this different angle. We talk so much with you about your experience in fintech, in deep technologies, blockchain, and space technologies. And today to switch gears and talk about food and sustainability is going to be very exciting. So again, welcome and thank you, Irina. Julio, you're up next. You know the drill. You're with us yesterday. Intro, background. I'll let you take it from there.
Had a great time yesterday, but this time we're going to talk about food. I'm not here that often. It's just that we do happen to follow both yesterday's topics, which was regarding transportation, and today food. It's another industry we follow closely. We are New York Bay Capital, based in New York City with representatives around the world, but primarily in Latin America. Excited about food, excited to talk today about some case studies that we have as either clients or investments in various aspects of the food chain. Always looking for new ideas. And Kyle, you're so right. Right after Labor Day, between now and the end of October, we hope to find a few more investees and clients to deploy some capital that has been delayed due to the pandemic since April, May, and we're pretty sure it's going to want to find a home before the magical December 31st of 2020, a day that we will probably all celebrate, hopefully for more than just the end of 2020.
There you go. And audience, Julio's validating it. I know what I'm talking about. Sometimes when we're here on VCTV, end of the year sprint, you've got a few investors already calling it out who are looking for deals. So make sure you check in with them afterwards. And again, always add context as to where you saw and or met them as well. Yervin, continuing the conversation again, you know the drill. It's been a few minutes. Welcome back. It's a pleasure to have you. Intro, background.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. I'm Yervan Sarkisian. I live in London. I'm originally from Armenia, and it has been a pleasure to have the conversations 2 days ago about biotech and health tech, and today's food, which is a very exciting topic for me personally. And yeah, I'm a VC. I'm investing in early stage deep tech companies, and also I'm advising some startups as well in building up their strategy and going and fundraising. So I can help with that part because I see both sides, both startups and companies. But yeah, food tech, there is a lot of things happening. So happy to talk about delivery. Or I was worried when you mentioned about marketplaces. I thought that was a wrong session I was in. Apparently it's food marketplaces, so it's good.
It's food marketplaces, absolutely. And it is such a core component to the entire food supply chain, right? From, again, farm all the way through to us as end consumers, right? How are we buying, selling, transacting? Where are we getting those goods from? There's so much to talk about in that area. And welcome, Yervin, again, for coming back to the show. Noble, you know the drill. Pleasure. I'm gonna let you take it.
Good morning, Kyle. Good morning, everyone. My name is Noble Dracone. I'm the principal partner of Dracone Capital Partners. We invest in early stage, pre-stage, Series A, early Series A, or pre-Series A companies. We tend to be agnostic, but we have a heavy focus in virtual reality, augmented reality, as well as entertainment. But in the past year, we started looking at contactless delivery of food. And most recently, we've gotten involved with a company called Basil Street, which has contactless pizza machines. Up to date, we've helped them raise almost $15 million, and we're going in for another internal raise of another 5 to 10 million to expand them. They're actually running their pilot in Texas. Till then, you know, we realize food is important, but the contactless delivery is key. I'm also the president of Where Play Games, which is an augmented reality gaming company, and I partner up with M Accelerator, which is an incubator accelerator. And so we're seeing more and more people submitting to the accelerator contactless or food products to even have people farm at home. So we're pretty excited.
It's there's again so So much potential and possibility within this industry. So excited to dive in that. Gary Fowler, welcome back to the show. As you know the drill, I'm not even going to tee you up anything more than it's all you, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Kyle. So my name's Gary Fowler. It's great to be here. And like most of us here, I've got multiple roles. I'm an investor. I'm the CEO of IREX. I'm the chairman of BidEase. I'm a co-founder of Zemply, an AI company. So aging in place. So lots of roles. I've done 15 companies. Most of my focus is on artificial intelligence because, as I said many times, artificial intelligence is the new electricity. So proud to be here. I think it's great to connect with everybody. It's nice to see some friendly faces. I'm also David Yang, who's a well-known AI entrepreneur. I'm his partner with my company, Eva, which is near unicorn status today. So that's me.
Wonderful. Welcome back to the show. And last but not least, Bernard, welcome. A little intro, a little background.
Hello, Carl. Bernard Ox. I'm based in Paris. Just like others, I have multiple facets. I'm an investor. I'm also running one of the companies I invested to, and after we had to let the founder go, somebody had to do the job. And I happen to be involved in urban logistics, and especially in the food industry. And it's been a bit of a roller coaster since COVID, which was a bonanza for us and a number of players. So that's basically it.
Wonderful, and all welcome to the show. Tons again to talk about here, as everyone is very uniquely placed around the world. So I want to start with just the general overview question of what the current state is from your view around food tech and marketplaces related to food. To clarify as well, whether that be at the delivery level, the production level, or the entire supply chain through and through. So Irina, let's start with you, and then we'll come around to everyone to get your current state and views of what's happening.
Great question. When I think about supply chain, and obviously blockchain comes to mind, a lot of integration is happening, through application of this technology. Single source of truth allows us to really know where the food came from. And while we were experiencing been 6 months of disruption in all aspects of our lives, food became very crucial, and the source of food became very crucial. I believe that one of the bigger opportunities right now would be actually in farm to farm. Because what we need to do is create a marketplace that allows farmers to be able to interact with other farmers. And the key here is in small farming, in my opinion, because you smaller farmers will kind of treat their land a little bit better. They will use, they might not use the tillage, right? They might do the kind of a seasonal recropping and a lot of interesting techniques that actually allow you to save on and build up topsoil, which, by the way, a huge crisis all over the world. We lose topsoil in enormous amounts. And so I believe that looking at farm to farm and creating some kind of marketplace provides interesting solutions. And again, it is something that is kind of not very well discussed.
That's interesting. And I've seen a few, I think we've talked about in the past, building those farm to farm networks to get back to the consumer. But what you're talking about is actually working with farms working together in a very unique way, which I want to come back to. We're gonna come back to that in just a minute. Let's hold on that. Julio, to you, current view. What are you seeing as things happening?
Well, of course, like everywhere else, innovation is the name of the game. The thing that worries me about innovation is that it's very expensive. I mean, the food industry is so large that companies that really are making a difference have had to invest literally hundreds of millions of dollars. You've heard, of course, of the artificial beef companies. We're very familiar with a company called Just makes artificial eggs from plants. And it's just really researching how to grow beef, cell by cell, so that you don't have to kill animals. You basically are, you start from somewhere, from a few cells, and then in the lab or in the plant, you would be generating, massive quantities of beef cells that can then be consumed, right? But that takes so much money. And for a while, these IPOs could be quite exciting, but if they don't do everything right, they may not even recover the massive amounts of venture capital money that went in to launch the companies to begin with and to get to that IPO stage, and they may not even get there. So, we like to look at companies that can maybe make a difference, but do it in a cheaper way. Not necessarily by creating whole new classes of food, but by, maybe figuring out how the food gets from the farm to the table and make the process more efficient. And so we have in our portfolio of clients a few of these companies. One that comes to mind is called American Beef Operations. They are more efficient at cutting and classifying the beef that is available. But there's a lot of waste in the in this industry. You may not know this, but even though you might think that the entire cow gets somehow consumed, there's so much waste because different parts of the cow are worth differently, and very little attention has been put into how to properly separate different parts of the cow. So a lot of waste is generated. It reminds me of the fashion industry, which is extremely wasteful as well. Companies that can make those types of incremental improvements, I think, offer a better return for the money, because you don't have to put up that those massive amounts of investment. Of course, in distribution, a company I know well is called Foodology, Foodology.com. They're in cloud kitchens. Now that's obviously, in Latin America, they're the leaders in cloud kitchens. That's obviously a more efficient way to get food to the consumer, right? By having one kitchen somewhere, where there's cheap rent, and then delivering to the consumers under different brands, and you didn't know that you weren't calling a sushi restaurant, you weren't calling a Mexican restaurant, you were just calling one central kitchen. They're giving you the food as long as it's good. It's a winning formula. And so anyway, innovation, but in a small scale, gets us a little bit more excited than innovation in a large scale with someone telling us that they can deliver a fake cow in the next few months. That's a very tall order.
Well, I mean, this is something we're going to talk about here next, and that's going from the scientific creation of food products to the miniaturizing and the compaction of those. That's a new word I just made up there. Compaction, the compacting of food into smaller cubes or smaller pieces that still gets the same amount of nutrients. So a lot to talk about there. Thank you, Julio. Noble, to you. Current state, how are you seeing things shape up when it comes to food tech, and sustainability?
Yeah, I have a little bit of a unique perspective. For 26 years, I was a commodities broker, and we traded nothing but food products as a significant part of our business, both in hedging as well as speculation. And so for me, I look at food as a direct correlation to energy. And energy is having a big issue right now, where we're dealing with the depressed price of oil. We find that Exxon was finally removed after 92 years off of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So you're looking at the whole cycle really being disrupted from the ground up. But on the flip side, we see a lot of high prices, right? Soybean is at some of the highest levels it's ever been in the last 52 weeks. So when I look at it, I see more about food insecurity leading into the near term. We've got a lot of issues with people just unfortunately unemployed, et cetera. So we have to figure out a way to be able to make food more accessible and more tenable for the majority of people, and then more healthy, because food and health are directly connected, right? So, there's a lot of levels of disruption that I'm excited about. I like the contactless delivery. I like where it's going in general with the kind of faux food to have people eat more plant-based, because in the long-term health is important. The key issues really just come down to what responsibility are we going to have on our food supply. Up until now, we've allowed third parties to decide how people are fed. And, we've got Monsanto, we have Cargill, we have all the major corporations who've really taken a stranglehold on the most basic innovation. Farmers can't even own their own seeds. So there's a lot of components that are kind of pushing towards like a brave new world, I guess, in how food is being delivered to people. And then why food is being delivered to them. Is it really to their benefit? We saw the biggest issue with the pandemic starting, that majority of the food is earmarked directly for restaurants and large service organizations in order to feed them. So immediately, once the supply chain changed and it had to go direct to consumer, there is an abundance of waste. The food industry in general is wasteful, but we had, we didn't see, a lot of people didn't see the pictures, but I saw pictures, and acquaintances of mine or farmers were sending me mounds and mounds of potatoes and corn that were just rotting away because there was no real successful way to individually package it and get it to the consumer. And so it's, and people don't talk about it, but there was a massive slaughter of hogs, because they couldn't get it to the consumer and they weren't designed to do consumer packaging. So I think there's a lot of little points of innovation that this whole situation is forcing on people to think differently and getting food in people's hands. There's a big movement in our home. We just started playing around with microgreens, which is a great way to activate and feed people. It's something I've been tracking for the last 2.5, 3 years, where people can grow from seeds and a little bit of water, nutrient-packed greens that they can eat in both salads and foods. And so there's a lot of companies that are stepping into these spaces, getting people to eat human food. So like I said, overall, I think I'm really highly optimistic at what out of adversity comes positivity. I'm highly optimistic at a lot of the changes that are coming, and we're just open to see what's evolving.
And Gary, to you, what are you seeing further on that point?
Yes. So, during the pandemic, where the biggest point where the blockage was the food processing plants, because people got sick and couldn't work. So, that was one of the huge points where they had a problem. So obviously having, thermal detectors and to be able to identify who's got COVID, that was something that we should have put in place a long time ago. And the Noble's point, it was interesting. I saw incredible people that were innovative restaurants were actually selling product. So they became stands, right? Where they're selling vegetables and people were flocking to them. And they were even buying toilet paper there. And it was a rough toilet paper. So, it's interesting. But look on the other side of it. Look at companies like DoorDash and Grubhub, and companies that really profited from this. So remember here, there were 2 Chinese restaurants, and I remember going into both of them, and the one Chinese restaurant, he said, I'm going to close down because I'm not going to get any business. The other Chinese restaurant stayed open, and he had 100% increase in his business because it was just inundated with people coming in. So, part of this, we've now got to look at the supply chain. The other part of it is a population of the planet has quadrupled in the last 100 years. There are a lot more people to feed, and we've got and a lot less land. So we got to figure out how to be a lot more inefficient. Recently, I just had a chance to witness a self-driving tractor for plowing the fields. And so those kind of technologies that can make us a lot more efficient and effective are really important today. And of course, cloning and 3D printers with meat, those kind of things they're going to happen. It's a matter of when. The good news is the pandemic has really pushed us forward very, very, very quickly to innovate. And I'm really, really happy that that's happening today.
Well, it's like we've talked about, right? The digitization of a lot of this stuff, and most of it has been accelerated. It's been on a long path. We've seen 3D printing of food for many years. at this point, it's just a matter of where's the application, right? Is it something in the home? Is it something within enterprise? Where and how? We're going to come back to that in just a moment. Bernard, to you, your thoughts and views on the current state.
Well, of course, I have a slightly different point of view, being in Europe and in Paris specifically. However, we see the same things as Gary and Noble described. If I sum it up while listening, so basically what we see is first is biofood is really taking up right now, and farmers are moving in herds onto growing biofoods, and so that changes quite a bit. Also for biofood or regular food, retail is changing. We see, and I see it directly in my own company. I've seen some young companies with new products or just bio products coming from nowhere like that, like typical product. And the guys come to me and say, well, I'm only starting. And I said, well, how are you going to sell? Going to sell direct to consumer? Going to sell through shops? And the guy said, no, I'm going for retail. I said, how come you go for retail? Yes, retailers now accept young companies. Before, it was almost impossible for a young company to have access to retail. And suddenly, I remember this company, they came with 2 pallets the first month. And after 3 months, it was 50 pallets per week. So that's a huge impact for a young company. So that's something that we see changing. We saw the biggest change, I would say, I'm not all in the food market, is openness to change. Well, of course, it's a bit forced onto a number of players with COVID, but it's openness to change. Here in Paris and also in London and Madrid, there is an Italian restaurant chain called Big Mama. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of them. Well, it's typical French and now English. But these guys, they started from a business school saying, how come we can't have a decent pizza in Paris? And basically what they do, they cut the middleman. They went directly to Italy. Well, they source mozzarella, cheese, pasta, tomatoes, whatever all the ingredients. They managed to, and they said, well, if you want to be successful, we need volumes. So we need big restaurants. That's it. So basically they built a chain, which was the biggest Italian chain after 5 or 6 years in Paris. And so they decided to expand to Spain and England. Of course, when COVID arrived, boom, all restaurants closed, of course. And in a matter of weeks, they went on to making pizzas to be delivered to consumers. So their sheer size, which was basically a problem initially, turned out to be an asset in using all their strength, all their Italian employees to move on to a pizza delivery company, which is challenging seriously all the Pizza Huts of the like, which makes, according to me, just shit. And with a very good product. So we see these changes happening very rapidly. That's the good point.
And we all love pizza, so we won't, if you like Pizza Hut, no stress. It's okay. And to Bernard's got you an open invitation to come try pizza with him. So go for it. And pizza in Paris, nonetheless, great. Yarvin, to you, I apologize. We got distracted. I got a little hungry. A little pizza for breakfast there, but to you, current state, what are you seeing in terms of your view on these industries?
Yeah, obviously, yeah, I agree with the previous speakers. There's huge changes happening in food. There is, especially during pandemic, but not only. There is larger demographic trends. People are more conscious about health and sustainability, where the food is coming from. So the pandemic has accelerated this whole tendencies. And I see, for example, in terms of saving food from throwing away, there is a company in UK called Oddbox. So what they are doing, they're delivering. It's a subscription service. They are delivering food, vegetables, and fruits based on whatever they can source from farmers. And normally those would be unregular sized fruits or veg, and something that either the retailers wouldn't normally take, or it would be these surplus, which again retailers wouldn't be interested in buying. And they have been growing very rapidly, and it's direct to consumer subscription business. And generally subscription-based businesses have been doing quite well. Plant-based food and vegan, some flexitarian options. It's yeah, there's a lot of things happening in that space. And in terms of the technologies, I like applications of AI and deep tech. So I'd like to mention about the companies that are using AI, and two specific cases. One is a company that we're invested in. It's called Intelinair, out of US, and they have also operations R&D team in Armenia. What they're doing, they're flying planes and capturing images over fields in US and Brazil, and they are analyzing those fields, those images using AI, and then giving a lot of insights to the farmers and the whole supply chain about what's happening with the crops and any issues that they need to tackle. So it's helping with precision agriculture and making sure that you have increased yields, etc. So it's a very interesting solution. And another, which is very early stage startup, they are using AI in order to see the orders when you order something from Deliveroo or DoorDash or whatever it is. There is big problem with orders packaged incorrectly. So there will be like someone forgot to put ketchup or something else, and that's a big cost for the restaurants and the delivery company. What they are doing, they're using AI to analyze whether the order was correct or not, and just warn in the beginning. So that helps, and that's a very interesting proposition. Their target is building an OS operating system for kitchens, where the kitchen will be really automated, where there is robots doing not like now the whole pizza for doing pizza unit, like special robot. The tasks will be smaller, but there will be more robots, and you can do much more complex menus just based on order. So that's where they see the future going, and they want to build an operating system for the kitchen. And that's really interesting space.
And Noble, I mean, you've invested in a company, in that automation space. I mean, are you seeing similar applications and technology being applied beyond the company that you're invested, or companies you're invested in? Are you seeing other things happening in that space with technology integrating?
Yeah, the cool part is there's a couple, I don't know if you guys saw the video of the hamburger flipping robot that can make almost 100 patties instantly compared to having one employee. We're facing an intersection where there's so much automation going on. The question is, who's going to be employed, right? So there's a positive and negative to this. And on the flip side, we're especially Americans, we're some of the most tracked people based on our comforts and needs. We've talked about it on previous shows, in which there's so much data analyzed on what we're doing and how we're doing it, that you're looking at a lot of the innovation. And I guess the dark side of that is, do people really need to be promoted more fast food? The people know, like, give you a good example. I've been using, this is probably the most I've ever used DoorDash. We used to use it randomly, and I'm like everybody else. We used to use it randomly for the office, and we'd order food and lunch. And I noticed that because we used it more, we were receiving a lot more pushes for similar types of food that we would order previously. And then there was the ad retargeting that started showing up on the internet, in which we would get coupons and the like. So I'm seeing a lot of innovation, and there's a couple of companies that have successfully on Start. I don't know if anyone uses Start Engine, but I love looking at Start Engine and WeFunder that are currently being funded. There's another pizza automation company that's different from ours that just raised almost $1 million to kick off. There's another which I've been tracking and I like. There's other companies that are focusing on how to get food to people fully contactless. So there's the robots that drive down the road within a 5-mile radius that can track and arrive at people's homes with the food that they ordered. So there's these really cool little innovations that we're tracking, but some of it is just a little early and far ahead of its time. Most of the software innovations is really where I've been excited. And then the big hardware installations like we've invested in that we know that people are going to go to. A lot of the other stuff is just ahead of the curve. Maybe next year we'll see them be fully explosive, but the adoption and watching the innovation has been really fun.
And Irina, I want to come to you next around this. So, I mean, you're sitting on all sides of this. How are you seeing this being applied at the farm level and maybe one step further as well? Are you seeing similar aspects? Are you excited about this? Where does this play a role in your world?
Absolutely. I'm really excited about it. And I'm excited about it on all the verticals that are described. One of the things I think that is key to understand is that farming is really missing benefits of technological, like software solutions. Even when we talk about drones, obviously we have a drone and, we'll be using drone for the farming. We'll be using blockchain technology, supply chain to make sure that you can track the chicken that you're eating, that you can see the vegetables, that a full history from this is the egg, this is when it got harvested, right? As well as understanding and seeing how we're treating the land and the transparency that allows us to have, so you don't have to trust us, you can just see it to yourself. But when, let's say it comes to drones, the software is not there. It's extremely mature. So at this point, if you get a really good drone, you must be able to code it yourself to do what you want it to do the analytics, the AI. Now, luckily, my husband is genius and he's technology genius. So, we're blessed with the fact that he can stand up, interesting systems himself. And that's where the kind of solutions, that's what is driving me with the permatech, because permatech is basically integration of farming with technology, and not just a hardware, but software. We do have hardware. I mean, there's a lot of machines, and obviously robotics need to be developed, but we need the software to understand how farming works. And we need to understand what works for farming, right? One of the most important things I think that we've learned is the understanding of what farming is. And farming is sustainable if you are taking care of your grass, okay? So if you're taking care of your land, that requires biodiversity. Your topsoil, your healthy grass, you have to plant multi-seeds several times, in Texas 2 times a year, right, to make sure to prepare for the colder season, for hotter season, and the treatment and kind of the systems for your animals. How you treat your animals is very important. And I think this is the very important thing that I keep in mind. When I eat something, I look at kind of what did this food experience? And so stressed cows are not good. Happy cows is good. Grain makes cows sick. You have to give them antibiotics. Now grass makes cows happy, right? So cows go eat grass, then the chickens, you can move them around, chickens come and they claw in the cow manure, and that improves the land. So farm animals are crucial for the health of our planet. If we remove farm animals, it does not work. You cannot sustainably grow enough greens and vegetables without the farm animals. And so it's interesting dynamic that we are experiencing. But to kind of a bottle that to a side, I want to bring us back to farm to farm. And the farm to farm is important is because kind of the smaller farmers, they are the biggest population in kind of rural areas. And I mean, we're talking about people that have 100+ acres. And on 100 acres, you can sustainably improve the land and feed the whole community. Usually what ends up happening is that these farmers are forced into the traditional way of monetization. So they will actually plant corn and then go, or, you know, they'll plant corn or they'll have cows, which they will sell on slaughter because they don't know how to sell. And you would think that it goes into the farm to market, but farm to farm allows you to start having a biodiversity for farmers. They can then exchange value to value. You can exchange chickens for cows. You can exchange work of tractors, right? For eggs, for seeds, for things that are important. And the ecosystem in a rural farming right now works to where if you neighbors, you do that, but they need a wider network. And if we have that wider network, we can strengthen their good practices. And then through farm to market, we can have a really great distributed network. So marketplace, we must design marketplace farm to farm and then connect it to farm to market. I think that's where solutions are.
And that's a good point. I think, and Gary, I want to come to you next. I mean, AI is going to play a huge role in that, right? I mean, a lot of that can be automated and streamlined based on data. How do you see AI playing a deeper role in either farm to farm marketplaces and or just the general area of food tech, layer deeper than what we've already spoken about?
Well, I mean, so you look at it from a logistics standpoint, having the right product at the right place at the right time is important. I mean, there's so much data that we need to analyze. So from the soil to where we need to take the product from, the other thing is in terms of the supply chain, from the time that the plants, hydroponically potted to the time that it's expected to be delivered at the store. How do streamlining those operations? So AI is going to play a critical role. And we did a company a few years ago. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which is an optimization algorithm, AI. And I mean, those kind of technologies are the same things we're going to have massively used today. And it's not just about the US and California. I mean, I just got a flash on my phone about the fires up there. I mean, we've got to be careful that we protect it. We can't have it all. It's got to be decentralized. It can't be, all in a field in Monterey or Salinas. It's got to be, spread out, because if that part of the food production system gets destroyed, what are we going to do? So look at, taking it one step out, Kyle. I mean, hydroponics in urban communities, this is something we better take a look at, right? Having the product, hydroponically grown plants grow 50% faster than ones potted. And, and you're having them in a greenhouse, so you can grow in all times of year. We better explore those kind of technologies. We've got a challenge in front of us. Remember, the population has quadrupled in the last 100 years. If it goes up 50% in the next 50 years, we got a challenge. Right? There's 8 billion people on the planet Earth. How in the world are we going to feed them? Look at people starving today. How do we take this at equally? The one thing about the pandemic has shown us, and I told you, I just wrote an article about Nikola Tesla's dream comes true. The, opportunity is globally spread out. It's going to be published in Forbes in about 2 weeks. But from, where we are with the supply chain, those are now, how do we get the production from the US to a Mexico, from the US to a Canada? How do we get it closer to the site to grow it? Those kind of things. How do we do 3D printing of meat? If that's in fact the case, and I remember on one of the shows, we talked about the 3D production of meat. Those kind of things have to be taken a look at. So AI is going to be analyzing the data coming in, and it's going to help us streamline the system and make it more effective and efficient. We just need to look at some other technologies to get it closer to the consumer, and we better do it sooner than later.
Well, and there's a lot of science that's going to go into that as well, right? We're talking about food. We're talking about food that we put into our bodies. You know, Julio, you mentioned this a little bit around some of the alternative food companies that have been produced, right? There's technology, but there's also science that has to be involved in merging those two worlds. And a lot of advancements have happened in the past decade and a little bit further back, but really in the last 10 years, we've seen a lot of positive advancements. And now for the decade ahead, I think we're going to see even more. So Julio, I want to come to you about LATAM. So Latin America and the greater piece of it. What are you seeing in terms of opportunity in LATAM around food tech and food marketplaces? And then Bernard, I'm going to come to you around the same here for a different region before we get to the lightning round.
I mean, well, the big story in Latin America has been that it's transformed itself from a food importer to a food exporter. Maybe people are not aware of that, but Mexico, right south of the U.S. border, used to not, it wasn't as crazy as it sounds. It didn't even produce its own food. It was dependent on American imports of grain and many, even bad things like sugar. Now it's maybe thanks to the free trade agreement, maybe just thanks to general development and maybe lower labor costs or reforms that were long overdue. Latin America is really planting a lot more than it used to, and it's exporting. So these days, if you buy a tomato, if you buy a piece of broccoli, if you buy an avocado, if you buy, bananas, almost anything, it's coming from Latin America, right? But Latin America is also an example of what also goes wrong. And what goes wrong is that there is an obesity problem, and that there is a salt, sugar, fat, the three big evils of the food industry. And you've all read the Michael Moss books, and if you haven't, you should, about salt, sugar, and fat, right? But if somebody were watching 100 years from now this same conference, they found the video and, hey, let's watch. Look, these guys are all, but they're all, they're all well-meaning, and they're all talking about innovation, but they're almost not addressing the three evils, that are really or the enemies, right? And those are the large corporations that basically insist on feeding people the salt, the sugar, and the fat, and they're doing it almost with impunity because governments don't really seem to care that much about the health of the population. So maybe because they see hunger, which is a very good point that Gary made, there's hunger. But at the same time, if you cure hunger with a bunch of, salt, sugar, and fat, you're not really addressing the problem, because you're going to have a population that is sick and dying young with, sick with diabetes and heart disease and, you name it. So I don't know where this is really going, but I think just to address your question about Latin America, it shows that that if you get organized around food production, you can be very successful. You can become very efficient. You can become highly productive. Even though some large companies in Latin America, like the banana companies, they tend to be very unproductive, and that's a story in and of itself. But don't ask me about Del Monte. The extremely inefficient. They could be producing a ton more bananas, and they don't. But different story. The question is, you got to watch out for the health, and maybe the whole world should really take a look at parts of the world that are not doing very well because of the food they're eating.
Yeah, and again, technology and science are going to play a huge role in that as things are shifting, changing, and costs are coming down. So Bernard, to you, what are you seeing as areas of opportunity around these sectors in France or greater Europe as well? Oh, you're on mute. And then we're coming up to the lightning round, so everyone get ready.
First, I'm not an expert at the food market, so I don't want to say too much, not to say stupid things. The one thing that we see over here, well, first in Europe and France specifically, we're lucky to have what we call the PAC, which stands for Common Agricultural Policy, which is an initiative from the EC. So it, of course, it has some down effects, but basically it has allowed to structure the market. So in terms of production, and France is a heavy producer of food, but now Italy and Spain are as well significant exporters. So I guess Europe, is probably a net exporter of food globally. So that's going well. Of course, what we're seeing here is people, just like Irina said, well, we discovered that we need to do a reset and somehow go back to where agriculture was something like 50 years ago, with mixed food and mixed cows and vegetable on the same piece of land, to rebuild walls around pieces of land, because that saves the soil from going into dust with wind, to save the water as well. And so what we're learning is that our previous generations, without AI, they knew a lot about how to grow food or raise animals. So of course the challenge is that we have doubled the populations in the meantime, or tripled. So it makes things a bit complicated. However, on the good side, and what we see, and what I feel is important, is that consumer behavior over here is really changing. And that's a driving, well, nothing's perfect, of course, but we see that people now pay attention to what they eat. And as it happens, even at the fringe, because it's only maybe 10 or 15% of the population, and it's not only the urban affluent people who care, everybody cares. The elderly care because of diabetes and other chronic diseases. Young families care. Enough people care so that it drives change, first with retail, and retail, which is very powerful here and very consolidated, drives the supply of food. So that's the way it goes. And it's not driven by innovation at the farm level. It's driven by consumer behavior and by public policies. So you may not like public policies at large, but it really has an impact towards sustainable farming in the end. So that's basically what we see here.
Agreed. And everyone, thank you so much for all the thoughts and insights. We are at the lightning round. Want to come to everyone for a very, very, very quick closing thought, and where can everyone find you, as we are coming up to the top of the hour and we have a massively packed schedule, excitingly, here on VCTV. So we do want to keep things going. Yervin, I want to come to you first. Any quick closing thoughts? If not, where can everyone find you online to continue the conversation?
Yeah, so quick thoughts. Yeah, I'm excited, as I said already, about all deep tech companies in the space, and there's a lot happening. Alternative proteins is one, cell cultured meat, etc. AI. And finding me, it's yervand@granatsventures.com or on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Noble, where can everyone find you to continue the conversation?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Noble Dracone, or on Twitter, Dracone, just my last name, @Dracone. Last thought, sustainability. If you can figure out a way to find yourself in sustainability as well as contact lists, you're in. So just reach out to me.
There you go. Gary, to you. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, sure. No, thanks, Kyle. Yeah, you can reach me on LinkedIn, Gary Fowler, LinkedIn, or you can email me, gary@gsdvs.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'm excited about the opportunity. And as I said, the pandemic's pushed us forward in a whole lot of ways through this digital transformation. I'm excited about where we are, and let's plan and let's make sure we have enough food and potable water so we can live longer and better.
Absolutely. Bernard, to you. Where can everyone find you to continue the conversation?
LinkedIn, like everybody else, Bernard Ox at LinkedIn. And my lifestyle, I'm sorry, that's self-advertising. At Calao, we're launching a development fund, 50 million first target close, to help agriculture start moving to new technologies in France.
So, I love it. And no, take the self-promotion. That's exactly what that moment is for. So thank you. Congratulations. And it's so exciting that he's already got people calling him. So you guys need to jump on the bandwagon, connect with Bernard immediately. Julio, to you, where can everyone find you online to continue the conversation?
New York Bay Capital is nybaycapital.com, like it's right up there, just .com. These are the companies I mentioned today. I decided to just, so that there's no confusion, Foodology, American Beef Operations, Del Monte, which is thumbs down, just very interesting. But LinkedIn, I just sent via the chat how to find me. Good luck to everybody. Thank you very much. Nice seeing you all.
Wonderful. Thank you. Arena, close us out. Where can everyone find you online to continue the conversation about farming, crypto, blockchain, fintech, space, and probably about 6 other industries?
Right. Yes. Irina Litchfield, Google me, wherever link, fits you, find me there. My closing thought would be two thoughts. One, food and farming and nutritional education are two subjects, okay? And though they are connected, and I think the nutritional education and what nutrition means and how do we understand nutrition should be a separate subject. Grains and fruits are sugar. Make no mistake about it, because your liver metabolizes carbs and your body metabolizes fructose and carbohydrates. Okay, so then just keep that in mind. Salt and fat is bad if you're metabolizing sugar. If you're metabolizing fat, then salts and meats are extremely good. Carbohydrates have functioning of holding, okay? So it constantly makes you gain weight. Non-carbohydrates, beta hydroxybutyrate, to be correct.
So we gotta quickly wrap.
It allows you to pass. So separate those two and don't make your farming decisions based on how you understand nutrition, okay? Because that's a completely separate subject. When it comes to farming, diversity, sustainability through diversity.
There you go. If you're looking to start a farm, you're in a farm, you want to learn more about farming, Crypto Superwoman, who also happens to know a ton about farming as well. Again, everyone, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and insights and spending today with us. Julio, thank you. And Bernard, again, congratulations on launching the new fund. Definitely check it out if you're interested. Again, farming, thank you, Gary. AI, whether it be AR, VR, and then Yervin all the way down in deep tech. Julio, when it comes to travel, transportation, and hospitality, you've got some of the best and the brightest, thank you, Irina, here that are willing to talk to you and continue the conversation. So do reach out to each and every one of them. And again, add context where you may have seen or met them as well. And thank you so much again for tuning in today. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Do reach out if you'd like to be on a show like today. Big thank you to to Elena, to Maria, and to the entire LA Token team for making VCTV possible every single day. Thank you, Yervin, Noble, Gary, Julio, and we'll be back here. I'm Kyle Lacotte, your host. Thank you, Irina. We'll be back here in just a short little break for more VCTV, and all week we've got a ton to pack in. You can find me online at all social media at Kyle Lacotte. We'll be back